Hey up everybody, my name's Josh Morrison, director of Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence, and today I wanted to talk to you about the idea of a personal brand. Now, in the creative fields, all of us are trying to get somewhere, and one of the most useful tools to do that at this present moment is social media. So that's your Twitters, your Instagrams, your YouTubes, your TikToks, Facebook, LinkedIn, Mandy, Star Now, Spotlight, all IMDb, all of these various things. These are profiles that you set up and you update as time goes on, as your career progresses. And I feel like as you kind of continue with your career in film, particularly, you start to give off the same kind of aura of wannabe professionalism. Not necessarily professionalism, but you're trying to convey the idea of professionalism for the sake of garnering more work. And it's essentially using your social media as an extended CV, essentially, that you continually update across your life. Now, actors that might be watching this might be able to relate to this, because every actor that I've sort of interacted with, you follow them on Instagram or whatever, and they've got this really professional headshot, and they've got to have stories on all the time, like the Instagram stories, and they do a few of them a day, sort of showing, I'm on this shoot, I'm doing this, and blah, 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 right? And then you've got all the posts where they've all got the same kind of format, where it's kind of like, so happy to be working on this thing, exclamation mark, I can't wait for this thing to come out, blah, 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 blah. I did this, and then I did this, and I did this, and then they'll also show stuff like, like a holiday that they went on, and they'll show just the most pristine parts of that. And we show off the most pristine parts of our lives in general, because we want to give off this image of professionalism, and like we are these good human beings that are real, that are slick and clean, that are ready to work at any moment, right? And if you want to break through the industry, if you want to break down the wall between you and the industry at large, this is something that you do need to do, because from my point of view as a casting director, one of the first things that I look at is people's social medias and their YouTubes and their Facebooks and so on. Well, not really Facebook, more Instagram, because Instagrams tend to be public. And, I look at all these things, and I do get impressed by the level of professionalism that is conveyed on these things. So I fall victim to the same commodification of your life. And that's what I do see this as. It's a commodification of your life, because when you actually meet people in real life, you realize that they aren't exactly like how they portray themselves in social media. They are rough around the edges. There are problems with them. And these are problems that you would never show to the rest of the world, because you possibly out of a fear of rejection. That's possibly why I have held off on revealing the true version of myself for so long. It's also the idea that maybe your real opinions are things that are wrong and that shouldn't be conveyed, because then you can't get work if you actually have certain opinions. And I don't mean like being cancelled and all that sort of thing. I just mean the general anxiety around putting your true thoughts out there in the world on the internet, as the internet was originally sort of intended to do, because that's what we all want to do. We all want to express ourselves. That's why we entered the creative field. We all want to express the true nature of our beings, right? But we do that via this fake social media presence. And I find that a little bit ironic, actually, in that we are trying to convey professionalism and this slick, clean corporate image, which but at the same time, we're trying to show off that we are this unique specimen that has this interesting voice that others might want to be a part of. And these two things can't really go together. So, my social media, for instance, my main Instagram is @Official Morrison Productions, and it's another one of these professional, slick type of Instagrams where you put your latest gigs on there, you put your latest jobs and what you're working on and all that, and you do the same kind of thing where, I've been doing this, oh, I'm so glad to be a part of this, so blah, 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 so grateful and all that sort of stuff. And, I do mean it, but I wouldn't word it like that in real life. I would word things in a different way. I have my own way of saying things, just like everyone has their own way of saying things, but we don't use that way of communication on social media. We all tend to gravitate towards the same slick corporate image, which none of us are deep down, because if that was your true personality, that's not a particularly interesting personality, a type of person to actually be associated with. So I see these people that apply for my casting calls and all that for my various films, and I try and look past the social media to get an idea of what that person is through the mistakes and through the little quirks of how they write and how they frame a shot or an angle or their particular style for their various social medias and their videos and their content, right? So when you're doing this social media thing to try and get into the industry, now, we kind of have to not be ourselves. We're told to always just be ourselves and good things will come. But I don't think you can be yourself. I think you've got to be this manufactured version of yourself that is made to be accessible to the masses and to be accessible to as many professional casting directors and producers and so on as possible. We are trying to create a corporate version of ourselves that does the work, and then we come back and we take the suit off and we become our true selves. So as time goes on, we start to tire of this same corporate image, and we experiment with various stylings, and then maybe months down the line, as we start to apply to a new job, we might go through our social media and look at a post and go, ooh, God, delete that, delete that, hide that. You're astroturfing your true personality, because you're taking things that you are no longer proud of and hiding them. Like, there's so many great films that I see on people's show reels, for instance, right? And I go and try and find them, I Google them, and I can't find them anywhere. And they might have an IMDb page or a letterbox page, or they might have a Facebook page that they set up for it, or a YouTube channel or whatever. They might have a couple trailers and maybe an interview or that kind of thing. But you can never find the actual film. The film itself tends to be locked behind a Vimeo unlisted video where you have a password that the director or the person that uploaded the video will send you. And then you find the video, you put the password in, and then you can watch the film that way. So we're making all this stuff and we're hiding it from the real world. We're hiding it from everyone. And why do we create? It's so that, we can express ourselves, and two, so that we can get people to engage with our art, with our expression. And, we're putting ourselves out there in some various form through the lens of, creative storytelling. And we do that, and it's very satisfying, and I'm very glad to be a part of it. And I think why this channel in particular has been doing quite well in the past couple of weeks is because it's me being myself rather than me astroturfing my own personality to be accessible to as wide an audience as possible. I give my real opinions on the state of things. I give my real opinions on the world, and then you find out that people are kind of on the same wavelength, and that you don't need to hide your opinions, because a lot of us tend to agree. As long as you're generally a good person, you can be yourself, and good things will come of it. In general, sometimes the world can be unfair and it can beat you down, even though you've tried your best. But all we can do is push forwards and just keep creating and pushing at new things, and pushing the boundaries and trying new things and breaking new ground. And at the end of it, hopefully we can break down this wall between us, the individual low-level people, and the industry at large. And I do feel like we have to commodify our lives now in order to break into the industry. We always had to some degree, but now with the advent of social media, you have to be so on it. You have to look like you are, doing stuff all the time. You have to project this image of success, which was a lot easier to do when you didn't have social media, because all you had to do then was just, when you were talking to a producer or whatever, just say what you're doing in that moment. But now you have to be in that mode whenever you log on and whenever you make a post, and whenever you do something, and you have to go into that mindset. Even if you're, say, like, just lying in bed and making a new post, you have to enter that mindset in your off time, and you're always on Like when I do what I do as part of this creative field, I'm always on. It's not like a job where you clock out at the end of the day and you go home and you forget about it. You're always trying to think of stuff. I basically work from the moment I get up and have my breakfast to the moment before I brush my teeth and go to bed. And that's not to say I'm a super busy person. That's not to say I'm a workaholic. That's not to say like I'm the most productive individual out there. But because of the nature of my work, I have to be on it all the time. And we all have to be like that. And that's the only way to actually make something now, is to put out this image of yourself for the sake of the casting directors and the employers. And I feel like the employers, from my point of view as one, we don't really want this to be the case either, but it just is the way that it is, and everyone's accepted the way it is. It's like with Spotlight, for instance. Spotlight came around some point in the last decade, and it started off with a bit of an astroturfing campaign to make Spotlight seem like it's the big, legitimate thing, and you're not a legitimate actor if you're not on Spotlight. And so this message was spread around the industry, at least in the UK, and now casting directors do take Spotlight so seriously, and casting agents will only take actors if they are on Spotlight. So now, because of the advent of social media, now you need to pay, it's £180 a year to be on Spotlight, and then it's another £150 a year to be on Mandy.com. So you have to pay for all of these things, and you have to have them, because you can't do anything without them. And this is the only way that you can get work now. I'd compare it to nurses having to pay for parking at the hospital that they work at. They have to pay for parking. I think it's something like £60 a month, something like that, which comes straight out of their pocket. They have to pay for their own training. They have to pay for all these various things. So just to get work, you have to put the money in. And where are you going to get the money from? Well, you're going to have to get a job, and then you're going to use the job so that you can get more work, and you're just going to work to work, essentially. Which for what this is as a filmmaking industry, what is the point of film? Is to show a personal expression of some variety via a community that have come together to make that vision a reality. And with the way that things are now, with social media, at this present day, I'm not particularly satisfied with this level of corporate branding that we have to do in order to make ourselves seem legitimate in the eyes of our employers. So as a casting director and an employer, I would like to say, don't worry so much about your Instagram and like making sure everything is as slick and professional as possible, having all the Instagram stories and having all these followers, because it becomes a rat race that you can completely enter into. And what's more important is the person behind the screen, the person behind the profile, which is what the casting director is trying to find. They're trying to find you. So if you put your real self out there, good things will come. But obviously you do need to astroturf slightly. You can't go out there and just rant about your political beliefs, for instance, because that's a very hot topic. And say if you're a Kamala Harris supporter and you start banging on about Kamala Harris, if your casting director for the job that you want is a Trump supporter, well, you're less likely to get the job, and vice versa. So we have to keep our opinions to ourselves, and we have to hide these things away. And that's something that I hope will change, but I don't think it will. With the continuing division of our society in the political landscape, I think that it's only going to get worse, and it's only going to get harder. And as people get better and better at making these personal brands, the expectations from the employers will tighten, and it will get harder and harder and harder to break down these walls. And I don't really want that to be the case. So whenever I try and be the change that I want, so I try and hire people based on the true version of themselves, rather than the self that they put out there for a corporate image. Also, because it's a lot easier to find your true self on the internet if I Google your name than you might think, because everything that is out there on the internet, and you can find all of it. So, yeah, on that, eerie kind of ending, I can see you. I'm gonna end it there. I hope you managed to get something out of this, and I hope that going forwards that you are more willing to put your true self out there rather than completely astroturf things. And hopefully the more that we do this, and the more that this idea of, you know, authenticity being the thing that's the most important rather than the professionalism, as that proliferates, I would like that to change the way that casting directors and production houses and you know, producers and so on will look at you when you put through that resume, CV, showreel, yeah, and cover letter. And final note, personalize your cover letter. I can tell when it's copy-pasted, and I can also tell when it's copy-pasted and you've changed a couple words. It's very easy to tell. I can also tell when you've used ChatGPT. That's not to say I hate when people do that, but you know, at least take the ChatGPT thing that it spat out, put it into a text editor and morph things into your own words. So yeah, that's a little tip just to end on. Thank you so much for watching this. Yeah, and I hope together that we can break through the industry and we can use a sledgehammer and break down the walls of professionalism and yeah, start being ourselves in an industry which is meant to be all about personal expression. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great rest of the day. Take care. Bye-bye.